All right, everyone, two different stories we're talking about today, starting with a interesting rumor that's picking up a lot of steam online, so I'm going to throw in my 2 cents on it. Are we expecting a January blowout for a Nintendo Switch 2 reveal? Well, that's the big topic of discussion lately, and interestingly, this one doesn't have any source other than a somewhat popular account over on X, so we're going to break down all of that. Then the other big talking point for today's video has to do with, you may have noticed, a new system firmware update was once again pushed to the Nintendo Switch, bringing it to 17.0.1, and we will break down the official patch notes, which are exactly what you would expect them to be, as well as data miners analysis within this update, and have that final conversation on whether or not we should really expect any kind of notable feature additions on the Nintendo Switch console going forward. And before we dive into topic number 1, make sure you like, subscribe, and turn on your bell notification to join Sunbro Nation if you're new here. And with that, we first have to talk about the January blowout that's supposedly coming for a Nintendo Switch 2 reveal. Now, I am not bought into this rumor whatsoever. You might be able to tell by my tone. The reason being is really just the fact that this was a post on X yesterday, and a lot of times when you have something that gains traction, you have some kind of source or information, or a leaker told me that this is going to happen, or there was a behind closed door event with developers and this is what I'm hearing. This particular account gives no source but has the following post: rumor, Nintendo Switch 2 launching early next year. Nintendo event in January, hashtag Switch 2. Now, clearly we don't know for a fact that this will not happen. In fact, I would love to see it happen and be wrong about my opinion on this, but I do feel like January is very soon next year to have a potential reveal for the Nintendo Switch 2. Granted, the one reason why you could maybe put a little bit of logic behind it is we did have those rumblings from Gamescom 2023 that, of course, developers were hearing something about March being a big time for this Switch 2 or the next generation hardware. And Nate the Hate, even in his podcast discussing that, said that he couldn't get clarity on whether or not it was something like a March reveal, or were developers actually being told, get ready to have your games ready to go for this thing in March because it's actually launching then. There is the slightest possibility that Nintendo could pull a card we've never seen them do before and launch a console very quick after reveal. We had about a 6-month window from when they revealed the original Nintendo Switch via that first look trailer and when it finally launched in March of 2017. There is the slightest possibility that Nintendo goes more into the mobile tech timing on things, where a phone is essentially revealed to you and the pre-order page goes up later that afternoon, and then you're actually playing with the product in a couple weeks after launch. I don't think Nintendo will do anything near that fast, but I don't think it's impossible for them to do a much shorter reveal to launch time window than we've ever seen them do in the past. And we also do have a bunch of different reports floating around online, not just the dev kit stuff and the potential targeted PC specs being shown off behind closed doors, but we also have like a lot of manufacturing side stuff going on. Nintendo potentially placing large quantity of Samsung OLED display orders, in addition to a number of different metal case manufacturers overseas saying that a new Japanese game console is coming in early 2024. Now, if I'm putting my money on this as a betting man, I would actually say that we have a higher likelihood of Nintendo showing this thing off in March of 2024, and then we get something like a June or maybe even as quick as May time launch, because there are a lot of reports suggesting that if Nintendo could ramp up enough production, they would like to launch the console earlier in the year rather than later. There's also that very strong possibility that Nintendo does the more traditional target window for new console hardware, which is that holiday or late fall season that people will naturally go out and be searching for this thing as a Christmas present for next year, and that's a very probable launch window as well. So whether or not these early 2024 reports are accurate remain to be seen. I do, however, think that in the first half of 2024, we will for sure at least hear from Nintendo what they are working on in terms of next generation hardware, and we will get that first look, first reveal trailer just surprise dropped one morning, or maybe communicated a little bit in advance. Tune in tomorrow for a look at what's next for Nintendo when it comes to hardware. That's where I'm putting my money, but I want to hear from you guys on this particular story. Do you buy into this at all? This Zuby Tech account taking to X to post this rumor that's now circulating wildly online? Do you think they do have inside information? They do have somewhat of a track record, supposedly, with PlayStation related info in the past, but I haven't really been able to verify enough to be sold on this being anything credible. But let me know how you feel about it, and when you personally would predict that Nintendo will both reveal and launch their next generation hardware. And are you team 2024, or do you think there's even a possibility that we're looking at 2025 before this thing is actually playable in our hands? Now, story number 2 is Nintendo Switch firmware 17.0.1 update. And of course, once upon a time when you saw a new system update for Nintendo Switch, you actually got a little bit excited because there was maybe some new functionality. We got Bluetooth enabled in the past. We got things like the folder system in the menu icons that I still think needs to be on the home screen, but we have some notable changes. Well, in recent history, Nintendo has done entire system point jumps, meaning like they go from 16.00 to 17.00, and literally nothing has changed. It is the general system stability and improvement message that we just see them do so often, and that's where I really want to spend a little bit of time, because at this point in time in the Nintendo Switch life cycle, I do not think that we are going to get any other notable functionality. I don't think we're going to see folders brought to the home screen. I don't think we're going to get custom themes like we have that light and dark theme right now. I think that's all we're going to have for the entirety of the Nintendo Switch system's lifespan. If Nintendo was going to bring that stuff forward, I think they would have done so by now, and we are now clearly talking about gearing up for next generation hardware, and hopefully we have some of those long awaited features in that console at launch. But the official patch notes for this 17.0.1 update reads as follows: resolved an issue with local communication for some software, general system stability improvements to enhance the user's experience. Now, you do get a little bit more information on what was changed behind the scenes if we go over to Oatmeal Dome, a notable data miner over on X, which he has the following to say: Nintendo Switch system firmware update 17.0.1 is now out. Nintendo says they fixed a bug in local wireless play. The following components were also changed, unlisted in the patch notes: likely bug fixes, controller input, crash reporter, docked/handheld mode switching. So there you have it. This particular update once again adds in no new functionality and is really just targeted at bug fixes. I'm not entirely sure what the reason for updating things like the docked and handheld mode switching would be. Maybe there's something that's going to happen like slightly more quickly behind the scenes, but again, we just want to get you guys on the same page. Every time you see a system update for the Nintendo Switch at this point in time, never think new functionality, new features. We are really down to the end of this console's life cycle, and those dreaded system stability and improvements are just going to be what we see Nintendo tackle more than likely. And if you're hopeful for things like custom themes, different menus within the system when you boot it up, or really just customizable anything for that fact, it's probably going to be saved for next gen hardware if we get that kind of stuff at all. I am a fan of the Switch UI overall, but I definitely think that now that it's been around since 2017 in essentially the same form, I am more than ready for some kind of shakeup just from a visual presentation or layout standpoint. Obviously, you probably see a ton of those fan mock-ups and things floating around online. Those actually look really enticing to me compared to what we have on the Switch right now, just because, again, it's been around since 2017 and I'm ready to see something new when I boot up my Switch. But I want to hear from you guys at this point in the video on both the different stories we talked about today. How do you feel about the possibility of a January blowout event for the Nintendo Switch 2? And do you think this is indeed good information, or do you think that maybe Nintendo reveals it in March and launches it later on in 2024? And are you like me and you've really all but given up hope on seeing any kind of new functionality added into the current family of Nintendo Switch systems that we have today when it comes to system functionality on a software update basis? And if you had to name one or two features that is missing from the Switch OS today that you want to see in the next generation console, what would they be? So regardless of your thoughts and feelings on everything we talked about today, I do look forward to hearing from you all in the comments down below before you leave the video, as I do look forward to getting a back and forth conversation started with you all around these topics. Go watch the video on screen next if you haven't already. Also make sure you like, subscribe, turn on your notification bell, and I will see you guys in the next video.